Jai Shri Ram. Legal maxims. I am reading out from a dictionary, and I think some of these phrases will be very useful for all of us. I'm just scanning, and let's see. Extreme caution does no harm. Extreme caution does no harm. The Latin phrase is abundance cautela non nocet. I don't think that's important. Extreme caution does no harm. Acts indicate the intention. Acts indicate the intention. Acts indicate the intention. An act of the mind, intention. Actus animi, an act of the mind, intention. An act done against my will is not my act. An act done against my will is not my act. The act does not make the performer a criminal unless there be also criminal intention. An ambiguous answer is to be taken or interpreted against the person making it. An ambiguous answer is to be taken against the person making it. Latent and obvious ambiguity. There is a latent and obvious ambiguity in his statements. The law permits arms to be used against the armed or to resist violence by violence. The law permits it. No man shall be condemned unheard. No man shall be condemned unheard. Reason is the soul of the law, and when the reason of any particular law ceases, so does the law itself. Cessante rationi legis cessat ipsa lex. Reason is the soul of the law, and when the reason of any particular law ceases, so does the law itself. No one should take advantage by his own wrongful act. No one should take advantage by his own wrongful act. Common error sometimes passes current as law. Common error sometimes passes current as law. I think this statement is interesting because there are so many superstitions, so many rituals which are being carried out, which I think are fundamentally flawed. And they have become sort of customs which I think should be questioned and they should be stopped. The bona fides means unviolated conscience, the unviolated conscience. You cannot question his bona fides. Custom or usage is the best interpreter of laws. Custom or usage is the best interpreter of laws. Crimes are extinguished by the death of the criminal. Crimes are extinguished by the death of the criminal. Credence should be given to one skilled in his peculiar profession. Credence should be given to one skilled in his peculiar profession. Gross fault. Gross fault is equivalent to bad intention or fraud. Gross fault is equivalent to bad intention or fraud. When any partner renounces the partnership is dissolved. When any partner renounces the partnership is dissolved. Damage or injury culpably inflicted. Damage or injury culpably inflicted. Damage inflicted without legal wrong. That's also there. Damage inflicted without legal wrong. Damage or injury culpably inflicted. The law does not concern itself about trifles. Now we'll have to examine what this means. The law does not concern itself about trifles, petty matters. Overreached by fraud. Dolo circumventus. Anyone fraudulently taken advantage of will not be bound by the contract to which the fraud gave rise. And fraud is not purged by circuitry or indirect procedure. Fraud is not purged by circuitry or indirect procedure. Fraud is presumed against one engaged in an illegal act or transaction. Fraud is presumed against one engaged in an illegal act or transaction. A right of action cannot arise out of fraud. Ex dolo malo non oritur actio. A right of action cannot arise out of fraud. A thing expressed puts an end to tacit implication. A thing expressed puts an end to tacit implication. A thing done cannot be undone. A thing done cannot be undone. False or bad grammar does not vitiate a deed. False or bad grammar does not vitiate a deed. False in one thing, false in all. Falsum in falsum in omnibus. False in one thing, false in all. He confesses the crime who flees from trial. He confesses the crime who flees from trial. It is fraud to conceal fraud. Fros est celere fraudem. It is fraud to conceal fraud. He seeks the aid of law in vain, who is himself acting contrary to the law. He seeks the aid of the law in vain, who is himself acting contrary to the law. Ignorance of fact excuses. Ignorance of the law does not excuse. In bad faith, deceitfully, dishonestly, in malified, deadly enmity, strong and deep-rolled hostility, inimicitia capitalis, deadly enmity, strong and deep-rolled hostility. A wrong does not excuse a wrong. No right arises from a wrongful act. No right arises from a wrongful act. Jus ex injuria non oritur. The law will always afford a remedy. Lex semper davoit remedium. The law will always afford a remedy. What is manifest needs no proof. Manifesta probotione non indigent. What is manifest needs no proof. प्रत्यक्ष को प्रमाण की जरूरत नहीं है. No one should be enriched out of the loss or damage sustained by another. That means, bottom feeder. Bottom feeder means exactly that. Nemo debet ex alieno damno lucrari. No one should be enriched out of the loss or damage sustained by another. No one is presumed to trifle or make sport at the point of death. So at the point of death, we presume that he is telling us the truth. He is not deceived who knows that he is being deceived. If you know that you are being deceived, you are actually not being deceived. Not everything which is permitted is honorable or morally right. Not everything which is permitted is honorable or morally right. The meaning of a doubtful word may be ascertained by reference to the meaning of words associated with it. A new law ought to be prospective, not retrospective in its operations. Every act is to be judged off by the intention of the doer. Every act is to be judged off by the intention of the doer. All things are presumed to have been done according to law until the contrary is proved. Every innovation occasions more harm by its novelty than benefit by its utility. Quite cynical. A subsequent ratification has retrospective effect and is equivalent to a prior command. Custom or usage is the best interpreter of law. That is the best law which leaves least to the discretion of the judge. He is the best judge who takes least upon himself. Usage is the best interpreter of things. According to the gravity of the offense. According to the gravity of the offense. Arbitrary punishments are not allowed. He who approbates cannot reprobate. Now, approbate means to approve. So you cannot, accept part of an agreement, part of a thing. Either you accept fully or you reject. They cannot be part acceptance. Ardha kukkuta nyaya. Ardha kukkuta nyaya is the analogy you see, which means there was a chap who wanted to cut off the neck of the chicken so that he need not feed it, but he wants the eggs, which is not possible now. Where one does a thing through the instrumentality of another, he is held as having done it himself. So if you hire somebody else to do a crime, it is as good as you have yourself done it. So don't indulge in this kind of loose thinking, fanciful thinking. Where one does a thing through the instrumentality of another, he is held as having done it himself. He who does not prevent or prohibit what he can prevent is regarded as assenting. He is agreeing. He who doesn't act through another is deemed in law to do it himself. He who derives the advantage ought to sustain the burden. Let him be deceived who wishes or is willing to be deceived. That which was originally void does not by lapse of time become valid. You see, there are lots of property, land and property stolen and occupied illegally. So I think this rule applies. That which was originally void does not by lapse of time become valid. Do not that to another which you would not that another should do to you. Mahabharata says, Atmano pratikulani paresham na samacharet. Atmano pratikulani paresham na samacharet. Res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. The thing speaks for itself. Regard for public welfare is the highest law. Regard for public welfare is the highest law. Lokasangraham. Salus populi est suprema lex. Regard for the public welfare is the highest law. Enjoy your own property in such a way as not to injure that of another person. Enjoy your own property in such a way as not to injure that of another person. Sic utiri tuo ut alienam non ledas. Latin. Socius criminis, an associate or accomplice in the commission of a crime. An accomplice in the commission of a crime. The best rule is that which advances religion. Wow. Summa ratio est quae pro religion facet. Suppressio veri, the suppression or concealment of the truth. Testimonies are to be weighed, not numbered. Uberrima fides, good faith, good faith. There is no wrong without a remedy. Ubi jus ibi remedium. There is no wrong without a remedy. Ubi jus ibi remedium. Truth in the name takes away or destroys the effect of error in description. Truth in the name takes away error in description. Veritas nominus tollit errorem demonstrationis. Truth in the name destroys the effect of error in description. The unsuccessful party is to be found liable in expenses to the successful party. The laws assist those who are vigilant, not those who sleep over their rights. Vigilantibus non dormientibus jura subvenuent. The laws assist those who are vigilant, not those who sleep over their rights. Okay. Jai Shri Ram. I hope it was useful listening to this. Definitely do some extra research. Make sure that you use the phrases. Jai Shri Ram.